Thank you and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Foxborough's Board of Selectmen September 8th public meeting. We're starting a little early at 6:30 to go into executive session, and we'll conclude that at 7 o'clock and start our regular meeting. So the executive session at 6:30, it's going to be attended by our Town Council, Leo Pelican, and Town Management to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with union personnel. And this is dealing with the steelworkers negotiations, the police contract, and the library contract. And then we have an August 4th executive Board of Selectmen meeting minutes to approve. And then we'll conclude that and begin our regular meeting at 7 o'clock. And at that time, I'll read the remaining agenda. So do we have a motion to go into executive session?
I'd like to make a motion. We go into executive session.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? John?
Yes.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Yes.
Ginny? Okay. Unanimous. We'll see you at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Foxborough's Board of Selectmen September 8th meeting. We just finished up executive session, and I'll describe that, and then we'll go into the agenda briefly. So just to let you know what we're doing from 6:30 to a little after 7, we had an executive session where Leo Pelican, our counsel, came in with town management and updated us on the steelworkers negotiations, the police contract, and the library contract. And we say steelworkers, it's the town hall employees that are in the process of negotiating a union contract. And then we approved the Board of Selectmen executive session minutes of August 4th, and we will release those right away. So at 7 o'clock, we have citizens input, followed by Selectmen's update. At 7:10, we have a public hearing with the Renaissance Hotel at Patriots Place, and this discussion and a vote to alter the premises and change of officers and directors. At 7:20, introduction of new employees. At 7:25, we have the review of the AA bond rating process that Randy's going to walk us through. We had 7:35 scheduled for town manager recommendation for salary adjustment, which we can discuss. At 7:45, Attorney Frank Spillane is going to introduce and give a presentation on 369 Central Street, which is a Foxfield Plaza redevelopment, and the discussion relating to an update in liquor licenses. At 7:55, there's a Country Fest debriefing discussion from the Country Fest the previous weekend. And at 8:05, town manager update. And then we have a dozen or so action items that we'll do at the end or in between. So Ginny, do you want to start us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we'll start off with, is there anyone here for citizens input? Seeing nobody. I'm going to give under, what's the next topic? Selectmen's update, a couple items. First, wanted to congratulate all the school committee members, the staff, the administration for a successful beginning of the school year. For once, I don't remember the last time we did it before Labor Day, but it sounds like it went pretty well. So we thank everybody that we entrust the kids for. Couple quick announcements. On September 18th, it's going to begin the POW MIA 24-hour vigil. So Michael Johns had asked if I could remind everybody. It starts at 4 o'clock on Friday, and it's held 24 hours straight until 4 o'clock on Saturday. And then at 4 o'clock, we're going to have a ceremony. A number of veterans, townspeople, officials, the American Legion Riders, and the Rolling Thunder. And basically, it's our way of giving thanks and tribute to the 90,000 men that were prisoners of war and those that are still missing. So I know in the past, it's been a very formal. It started by the Scouts, where someone stood very solemn and was kind of hands-off a little bit. This year, Michael John says it's going to be a little more interactive, encouraging the families, the kids to come, ask questions, and have a discussion at any time. If you want to stand vigil, anyone is welcome. contact Michael Johns or anyone at the American Legion to sign up for that. A quick shout out to the JCs over the summer, starting in end of May, beginning of June. They had about 8 or 10 concerts on the Common, free to all the residents. So a quick thank you to the businesses, certainly the JCs for running that again this year, and also for cable access that made it accessible for everyone to see it at home. So a lot of families and people came to enjoy that. The JCs are having their general membership meeting. It's this Wednesday at 7:30. For those of you who don't know what the JCs are, kind of a group that's dwindling across the state. Foxborough is probably one of the stronger groups, and they have a membership drive on Wednesday. The topic is do acts of kindness and service to others. Do acts of kindness and service to others really make a difference in what motivates us to help others? It's going to the guest speaker is going to be Cindy McGinty. If you remember, she's the founder and president of the McGinty Scholarship Foundation. And she's going to share her account of how Foxborough stepped up and rallied around her and her husband, Michael, when Michael was lost at the World Trade Center on September 11th. Part of this also is the McGinty Scholarship Fund, which they've raised, Chris, about
$90,000
to date. So it's a good day to come out. It's going to be, this year, it's going to be in Saturday the 12th. There's going to be 36 Red, which is a local band that's going to be playing. So anybody and everybody is welcome to come. It's at 11:30 to 3:30 on the Common. And it's been very successful, and I think it's still growing, correct?
Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
so.
Each year, actually, we bring on newer and younger members, and this year we actually, on our committee, have one of the scholarship recipients from 2009 who is now a teacher at the borough, and she joined our committee, so it's going to be good.
Nice. A new group that forms, we've had it at our table a little bit, the Foxborough Friends of the Foxborough Flagpole. So Jack Arthurlet brought it to our attention that the 100-year flagpole is in disrepair, well past being able to be painted. So a group of us got together last week, Tina Bellinger, Jack Arthurlet, Rachel Calabrese, Chris, myself, and the goal is to raise between $45,000 and $50,000 for the flagpole. The area around the flagpole and the patio has to be replaced just to put it in. And what we're going to be doing is reaching out to residents. This is not a taxable project, and there's solid reasons for it dating back to the beginning of the Common and how that came about and the upkeep of it and the fencing. So Jack Arthurlet and the group feel very strongly that it's going to be a public outreach. To date, even though it just started, we raised a little over $6,000 going towards that, and we're very optimistic within weeks and months we can hopefully get the word out. There's going to be some pretty exciting things coming down to get people involved in that, so keep an eye out for that. Fireman's Ball, September 11th. For those of you that are going, it should be a good kind of a blast from the past, bringing an old tradition back. So thank you to the fire department for doing that. That's on September 11th, and it's over at the Lakeview Pavilion. So you'll get a good chance to see the new building that we just had the ribbon cutting for last week. A couple quick updates on, I think on the next meeting, the 22nd, we're shooting. You okay?
Good. I got one more cut.
We're shooting to have the Beacon Compassion Center back in front of us for more of a discussion in seeing where we go with that application. And another item that we would like to put on the agenda is the Foxborough Housing Trust Fund. That was a fund that was approved at town meeting, and there's about $320,000 that was giving in lieu of affordable housing for the town to do something with. And if we don't do something with that by July of 2016, it disappears. So there was a committee that was enacted, put together, and I reached out to Bill Greta to see if from the planning board if he can come as we're going through the process of hiring a new town planner. I think his and the planning board's help will be appreciated, so if we can get that on the next agenda. And again, if there's anything else that you would like on the agenda, let us know. And then one last thing, Bill ran out to get it. A couple weeks ago, we were presented by the Kraft Group, Jonathan Robert Kraft, a nice autographed picture of Malcolm Butler. And if you recall, if anyone watched that game, Super Bowl. That was when Malcolm Butler intercepted the Seahawks pass on the 20-yard line from the 20. So it was a little rushed, but we wanted to bring it from Town Hall just to show the public. In the letter that came along with it was, you know, this is a gift that represents teamwork and success and a long history, and they wanted us to put it someplace in the new Town Hall. So I don't know if you can hold that up. So it's a signed autograph picture if anyone hasn't seen it. So if and when the new Town Hall comes, that's going to go in that direction. But in the meantime, I guess at the pleasure of the board, if we could take this gift and accept it, because it's a gift that's obviously more than $50. And in the meantime, we're thinking putting it in the public library on display. If that's okay with the board?
We need to make a motion or anything to do it, or?
We do, because I know there was a similar signed autograph picture and it went for the thousands of dollars. So it's anything over 50 we need to formally accept.
It's actually considered a gift.
A gift,
So
yep.
the board should accept it.
I would like to make a motion then, we accept the gift with gratitude from the Kraft family.
I'll second that.
And any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Taking it with great appreciation.
Thank you.
And good luck on Thursday.
Oh, it's Thursday.
You want to talk on that? I don't know.
The local
Huh?
football team's playing.
Yeah.
On Thursday? Yeah.
It's not Red Sox time.
Oh, I guess the 9/11 ceremony? Is that follow up? The McGinty Day is on Saturday.
Saturday, September 12th.
Okay, are we having a ceremony on?
I believe the police usually do. I've never been part of it or invited or anything.
Okay.
So police and fire, I think, usually do.
Mhm.
Jim, Michael John's, the vigil is on the 18th?
It's on the starts on the 18th on the Friday night.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to the 19th on the
Okay, sure.
Saturday. And then also, so I guess if this is a good segue, if we could get that information into the reporter. Having said that, we said a fond goodbye to Frank Mortimer, and I see Bera Dunau is here tonight. So if you want to just be recognized quick, Frank's replacement, if there is such a thing, is Bera. He just started last week. There was you had a nice editorial in the paper to describe yourself. So welcome to Foxborough. You'll be covering all the selectmen meetings?
All the selectmen's meetings, all the Board of Education meetings, and we will try to cover as many of the other governmental stuff as we
Okay, great.
But we will be on your side every meeting, so.
So all of our emails are on the website, so feel free to reach out to anybody and everybody. So we wish you a long, successful journey here.
I didn't have any of this.
Okay, and our first item at 7:10, I'm going to ask to take one item out of order, if I can find it. The Foxborough Commission on Disability, there's an appointment of Lucy Eckhart with a term expiring on 5/1/2016. So where Lucy is a volunteer and Susan Collins from the appointing, recommending commission appeared to be here, wanted to be here tonight. I didn't want him to wait till the end, and if we did this in between, I didn't want him to miss him. So, Susan, do you want to just come up, and Lucy? So that's action item number 2 on the list.
So as Mr. DeVella said, I'm Susan Collins, chairperson of the Foxborough Commission on Disability. And we did have a vacancy at this time, and we're thrilled that Lucy Earhart has applied. I've known Lucy and her husband Thomas for 30 years. They have a 33-year-old son with autism and a seizure disorder. And she was very active in ARC of Bristol County, where she worked with families of children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And she did that for many years, and she just retired. So we're going to take some of her time, and we're thrilled that she'll have a lot of expertise and compassion, and she'll be a great asset for the Foxborough Commission on Disability and for the town of Foxborough. So I recommend that you appoint Mrs. Earhart to our Commission.
Very good. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And Lucy, thank you for coming. Is there anything you want to say before we
No, just
vote
thank
you on
I'm
the
happy-
island?
I'm happy to be able to contribute. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Lucy.
Great.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Lucy Earhart with a term expiring on 5/1/2016 to the Foxborough Commission on Disabilities.
Second.
Okay.
And thanks for helping out.
Great.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion?
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
All-
you very
All
much.
those in favor?
Oh, great.
You're official.
Thank you.
Great.
Best of luck. Thank you.
And the other one's not here.
I don't think so. Anyone here from the Council on Aging? Okay, you want to come up? Sure. On the,
You want to get that one? Oh, all right.
oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Then you're back on the list with the rest of us.
Public notice meeting, and I need to read it out.
Yeah, there's no motion in the packet.
No motion for.
For the gift.
No, for the next agenda item, we usually have the public notice that I read. It's not in any of the packets.
The public hearing.
It's not in your packet, Debbie, either, or mine, or
No.
John. One second.
Can somebody link in and grab it off the recorder? Is it there? Might not, actually, leave it open on there.
Oh, do you have it? You're the best.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item is the, at 7:10, we're running a few minutes behind the Renaissance Hotel at Patriots Place. Scott Williams and Karen Samau, attorneys. The public hearing to discuss and vote on the alteration of premises and change of officers and directors. If you could come to the table and we will read the public hearing notice.
The Board of Selectmen of the Town of Foxborough, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, September 8th, 2015, at approximately 7:10 p.m. in the Foxborough High School Media Center, 120 South Street, Foxborough, Mass. On application to alter the premises of an annual all-alcoholic beverages hotel license and a new office and director for Colwen Management, Inc., doing business as Renaissance Hotel at Patriot Place, 28 Patriot Place, Foxborough, Mass. Manager Scott Williams. All interested parties are invited to attend the hearing.
Okay, and so in our packet, in the rubber band, there was about a half an inch of application materials. So welcome, if you could introduce yourself for the record.
Good evening. I'm not Karen Sameo. I'm Stephen Miller, McDermott, Quilty and Miller, and this is Scott Williams, who's the manager of record for the Renaissance Hotel. And we're seeking your approval for a few items tonight. The first is an alteration of premises. The proposal is to, excuse me, move what is the existing club lounge that's on the 5th floor of the hotel down to the 1st floor, and replacing the spa on the 1st floor with the club lounge, and then building 2 new guest rooms in the place of the club lounge. This is something that has been requested by Marriott, and they're doing it in all their hotels around the country, and they requested us to seek your approval to move this. Their goal is to make it more visible, more accessible to people, and I'm sure it's something that they've been doing around the country, and it's working. So we're seeking your approval for that, for the change, the alteration of premises to replace the spa with the club lounge on the 1st floor, and then building 2 new guest rooms.
Okay.
Secondly, we're seeking approval, Colwen Management, which is the license holder. We're seeking approval for change of officers and directors. There's also in the application, there was put in the application, but I don't think it was as clear as it should have been, that Mr. Zaris, who currently is 1/3 owner of Colwyn Management, approved by the board and the ABCC in the application, would be purchasing the shares of Mr. Stebbins and Mr. Schleicher, who are the other 1/3 owners. I don't know if the board...
Yeah, actually, that was pretty clear if you follow this.
Okay.
You can see how he arrives at 100%.
Yeah, I did bring a couple of pages to just make it clear in the application. If we could change the application. But Mr. Zaris is currently a 1/3 owner and would be purchasing all the stock, and he would be bringing in I believe Mr. Stebbins would be staying, Mr. Schleicher would stay on as a director. Mr. Zaris would become the president, CEO, director. Terry Bickhart, who's been with the company for a long time, as senior VP, would become director, treasurer. Christine Thomas, another longtime employee, would be director, and Julie Scott, senior VP, would become director. None of them would have any ownership interest except Mr. Zaris. I have this one. Help, I have, if the board would like to see the big
Sure.
set of plans.
Yep.
So when you say spa, are you talking about the health club with workout equipment?
Yes.
No, the spa poche that was across from where the pool and the gym are.
Yeah.
Health spa for like,
Okay, so
The gym is still there 24 hours a day.
salon.
So the club lounge is going to go there.
Correct.
Okay, and then top floor. It's pretty simple, actually.
Yep, 2 additional guest rooms.
Totally doing away with the spa?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Mr. Williams, you will be the manager?
I am the
Or
manager.
You current acting manager right
Correct.
now?
I was
Yep.
the approved manager, right.
Okay.
And he's the assistant general manager for the hotel.
I was the assistant general manager until March, and then I was promoted to
To
general manager.
General
Yep.
manager.
And
Okay.
so,
Okay, so that concludes your presentation of the application. Questions from the applicant?
Through all this, there's no increase in seats in dining rooms, bar areas, no change?
no,
It's
no
just simply-
change to the operation at all.
Yeah, okay.
All changes are happening within the existing footprint.
Within the existing footprint, and basically moving from the 5th floor to the 1st floor and then putting in 2 new rooms.
Yes. So the only thing that'll change is your occupancy. Your occupancy will increase by two rooms.
Yes.
Ginny?
Yep.
Okay, so if there's no further questions, what we'll do is we'll close the public hearing. At that point, we cannot accept any new information, so now's the time to ask questions. Once we close it, then we'll...
There's two items. I mean, the change in management group. Are we all right with that? That's inside this public hearing?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, no further. So I have a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion on closing it? All those in favor? Now that the hearing is closed, deliberation on approval. This is 2 items. We can take the change of premises first. Alteration of premises, sorry.
The manager on the license is not changing, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay,
It's
so that's
Mr.
not an issue
Williams.
for the alcohol license. About as simple as they come.
Okay.
Mhm.
We try.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go with,
Oh, I just have one thing. There's no outstanding details or any money owed. I know the taxes are all set, but there's no unpaid details for the police or anything?
No.
Right, okay. Thank you.
And they are a big supporter of Fox Cares, so another feather in their cap.
Mhm.
yeah, they're actually one of the few establishments that always IDs everybody that walks in there, which is nice to see. I wish all of Foxborough's establishments did that,
That's what your practice is, everybody?
Anyone that
100%?
orders a drink, we card.
no matter what.
Learned our
Yep.
lesson.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is it as difficult as you thought it was gonna be?
The
I'm not
first-
trying to be facetious, but there's a lot of.
First month or two, we got some kickback, but now it's second nature for the staff, so they know how to joke with the guests and just
Yep.
kind of lighten the mood with it, so.
Okay, good. Okay, a motion, do I hear a motion on the alteration?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the alteration of premises for the Renaissance Hotel
And accept the new directors.
and accept the new,
And do them both at once?
yeah,
Okay.
and accept the new directors.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, appreciate it.
very much.
Best of luck.
Nice to see
Thank
you.
you.
Good to see you. That was simple.
Okay, the next item we have on the agenda is the introduction of new employees. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Bill Keegan. Do you want to run with this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could I have Lorraine and Patricia and Kathy come on, please? You don't have to sit, well, you can sit at the table or you can sit in the front row. Either one's fine. That'd be great. Thank you. First of all, it's always a great pleasure to introduce new members of the staff to the board and to the public so that everybody knows who these folks are when they see them in the buildings or out and about town. And I'll start off first with Lorraine. Lorraine Newell is our new financial analyst. Lorraine joins us from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where she was employed for the last 15 years in the Department of Facilities, and most recently as the financial analyst and fiscal officer. Prior to MIT, Lorraine was with Harvard University in the Harvard Planning and Real Estate Division for 5 years as the Capital Projects Financial Analyst. She also has experience working for a municipal government, as she worked in the Treasurer Collector's Office in the town of Amherst earlier in her career. Lorraine holds 2 degrees from Westfield State College, Westfield State University, I should say, in Finance and Regional Planning, as well as a Certificate of Special Studies in Administration and Management from Harvard University. She will be enjoying a much shorter commute from Norton, where she resides, and with her husband and 2 children. In her spare time, Lorraine is also active on the board of directors of the Norton Youth Soccer Program. So welcome. Is there anything we'd like to say to the board? Or?
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Good luck.
And then next I'll introduce to you Patty Tisdale, and she's our new administrative assistant to the Board of Health after we stole Marsha away from the Board of Health, so
Right.
sorry about that. Seems to be a trend in that operation, by the way, of sending those folks over to our office, so.
My game.
There you go. There you go. So, so Patty joins us, joins the Board of Health with 30 years of proven accomplishments. They include organizational, clinical, and administrative experience. Patty has had a variety of positions in many types of organizations, including the federal government, financial services, and a state-funded healthcare facility. Patty is very smart and efficient, but what sets her apart is her inexhaustible patience, warmth, and kindness that brings to the relationship of buildings and collaborating on multidisciplinary teams and that she brings to this office, and that which is essential for the success in any field, and particularly in the Board of Health. I know you're very challenged at times with some of the issues that you face there. So again, welcome to you.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say?
I'm just really grateful and love my new position, so thank you for the opportunity.
Great. We're happy to have you. And finally, I want to just introduce Kathy Staffia Varnum.
Yes.
That's a mouthful. That's I always have a challenge with the last name. The COA and Human Services welcomes Kathy Staffia Varnum to their staff at the COA and HS. Kathy has extensive human services experience. She has worked as a case manager for the adult foster care program at ARC of South Norfolk. She worked at HESCO Elder Services for several years as the Assistant Regional SHINE Director. SHINE is the Serving Health Information Needs of Everyone. She has taught courses at Fisher College, Southeastern Technical High School, and the Computer Education Institute. Kathy holds a BS from Suffolk University and a Master in Education from Cambridge College. She's a certified SHINE counselor and a certified paralegal. Kathy has many family and friends in Foxborough. Her husband, Paul, has been a Meals on Wheels driver in Foxborough for over 10 years. Kathy has a winning personality and a great sense of humor, which of course is essential to her job as well. And she is a wonderful addition to the staff, and Vicki, it says Vicki Lowe. So congratulations and welcome to you as well.
Thank you.
And Kathy, would you like to have a say for yours?
Thank you for the opportunity. I've always enjoyed working with seniors, and it's a beautiful senior center, so.
It is.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Welcome all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So, Bill, can I just ask you on the interview process, when this whole interaction worked, applications came in and you interviewed?
I usually, the
yourself?
way it typically works is I interview the finalists.
Okay.
So Mary Beth more or less coordinates the process from the beginning to end, and then she works with a subgroup a lot of times of subject matter experts to interview folks and narrow that field down. In many cases, we have such a good field of candidates that we often have to do telephone interviews first to kind of narrow that field down, and then we go to in-person interviews and narrow the field down to a group of finalists. We have found that we have been certainly very happy to have some very highly qualified folks that you can see in front of you tonight. They bring extraordinary background and extraordinary skill level to our organization, and we're very, very pleased to have them. And I'll just turn it over to Mary Beth for a second, just so you can talk a little bit about the process.
Sure.
Yeah.
We generally would, after advertising for the position, we would convene a screening committee. In some cases, it's the department head, the board chair, depending on how large of a search or how large of a candidate pool. And like Bill said, generally we'll do phone interviews to talk to the biggest group that we can, narrow it down to a smaller group of finalists, bring those in for face-to-face interviews. And then when we have 2 or 3 finalists, and again, I'm not usually a voting person on the screening committee, we would recommend that Bill meet the 2 finalists or whatever, so that he can give his input, and then they would go to, if they were reporting to a board, they would go to the board and get appointed in that way.
Sounds like a well-vetted process that you've come up with.
Right.
Yeah,
We
it
do
takes-
scripted interview questions. We ask for feedbacks, just so all candidates get the exact same experience. And I think it was pretty successful. I enjoyed their interview processes. I don't know about them.
So it's great to be able to see that what's good is the fact that we're seeing the talent level being drawn to our community at this point, which is really exciting to see, because I know that every organization goes through a transitional process, and I would say during the past few years, Foxborough has really seen some really significant changes that has drawn some great talent to the community. So I'm very, very pleased to be able to present folks of this caliber to the board. And you see it in all ranks. I mean, you see it in the Public Works Department. We see it in Public Safety. We see it in the Finance Department. We're seeing it across the board, and I'm really quite pleased with the results we're getting. So.
And so far, so good?
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right, anything else from the board?
Mm-hmm.
No?
Thank you.
All right, welcome and thank you.
Thank
Good luck.
you.
Thanks, ladies. All right. Do you want to say, Randy, anything? If I know Lorraine is a member of your staff, I know you're here. Yeah.
I will say something in the context of this discussion.
Thanks. All right, so the next item, we have Randy Scollins, who's our finance director.
I believe you are, sorry about that.
And we had recent good news of the AA+ bond rating process. So we thought it was a good idea for you to come in and present what that means in layman's term for the board,
Sure.
but also for the public, because I think at the end, the public is what this is all about, and if they benefit from it, why it's there and how we got there and what that means.
Great. I appreciate the opportunity to explain this. To start off at the most basic level, what is a credit rating for a municipal entity? Basically, it's what the people who are buying municipal bonds, when we go out to borrow, that's what they're looking at to peg what sort of interest rate they would bid on our bonds. So the better the credit rating, the lower the interest rate, with all market calibrations held equal. So, the goal is always to achieve the highest credit rating that you can. And the ratings, quite simply, are AAA is the highest. You can't get higher than that. And there's AA plus, which is where we are. There's AA, AA minus, and then there's BBB, and there are ratings below that. But once you're getting down to BBB and below that, you're into more of a junk category, in a riskier category. So you obviously always want to be in the A's. And we're at AA plus. Just a very brief history to put in context what just happened here in July. And what happened is Standard & Poor's, who rates Foxborough's credit, they initiated a credit review. We hadn't gone out to borrow in just over 3 years, and so all the credits that they monitor, they at least like to do a detailed credit review once every 3 years. So we haven't borrowed in 3 years, so they initiated the review, and we went through the process, supplied all the information back and forth, and discussed everything, and they ultimately, what they did is they reaffirmed the rating that we had, which is AA plus. So there really wasn't anything to gain in this rating. There was everything to lose. But so the good news is that we reaffirmed the rating. I think it's probably more instructive to talk about, first off, how we got to that rating, and then where we're headed, what we're looking to do beyond this. Back in 2006, when we borrowed, we were rated by Moody's AA minus. I was dissatisfied with that. I didn't think we were being given the credit that our stability and all the other contexts that you look at for Foxborough represented. So the next time we went out and borrowed in August of '09 for the high school building here, I changed rating agencies to Standard & Poor's. And those are the two primary, Moody's and S&P. And at the end of that rating review process, they bumped us up 2 pegs, from A minus to AA plus. So it's in 2009 when we actually initially achieved this rating for the first town, for the town, this time for the town. Next time we went out to borrow was in 3 years after that, was in February of 2012. Actually, we did a refinance, and even we refinanced about $5 million in debt. And even when you do that, you still, in order for the bond buyers to determine how they're going to price, what they're going to bid for your bonds, you still need a rating to go to market. So we went through the process again. They reaffirmed AA plus, and then 4 months later, we actually went out to market for new money to bond the library project and the Oak Street water treatment plant, $12.9 million. And again, 4 months later, they reaffirmed the AA plus. So here we are 3 years after that, and they needed to re-review, and they reaffirmed where we are. As Bill and I have been discussing from day one, our goal is to achieve AAA, which is the highest rating that you can achieve. And we believe, given the indications that have been stated to us and implied in the rating here, we believe we have an opportunity to do that the next time we go out to borrow. So whenever that next major building project comes up, whichever one it is is our intention to do a full-blown presentation, live and in person. Typically, they're doing these ratings reviews telephonically and sending a lot of documents electronically. But we're going to do this next one in person because we believe we've got a great story to tell. And we've already been given an indication as to what is it that they're looking for that we need to do in order for them to even consider that. And that is to formalize our financial policies, meaning to actually commit them to writing, have them accepted by this policy board here so that they are our financial policies. We do have, we already have some financial policies. We have investment policies in place, obviously, with the amount of funds that the treasurer manages on a day-to-day basis. We have investment policies that are very solid. What we have on the other end of things, which would cover things like debt, contingent liabilities like OPEB and pension, reserves, budgetary policies, operating and capital, revenue, expense, risk management, and long-term financial planning. What we have in those areas is very strong operating practices, and that's why we're given, we're rated strong on the management scale, is that we're in practice, we're doing these things. But what they want to see is they want to see that committed to writing, and they want to see the policy board having accepted those so that they know that this is the guide by which we will measure ourselves financially going forward. So that is one of the projects that Lorraine, new employee you just met, is working on, and it's our intention that before we go out to borrow next, that between Lorraine, myself, and Bill, we will have vetted a series of financial policies, all those that I just mentioned. We're then going to bring them to the audit committee, re-engage the audit committee, and have them review, refine, and then ultimately have the audit committee make a recommendation, back here to the board. It would also be important to socialize them with the school committee and the advisory committee, especially the school committee, because the policies that this board, would ultimately adopt or modify or accept, will be policies that will be applicable to the entire town, obviously including the finances associated with with school funds. So it's a collaborative effort. That's why the minority of communities actually have them, but it's the right thing to do in order to get to the next level. Last point I would make, and I'll take questions, is so how do they do a rating? There are basically 7 categories. One is they look at the economy in the area. Ours is obviously very strong for a variety of reasons that we all know. Schneider, all of the craft entities, all of the new growth that we're seeing, coming on board, the hotels and the development, the fact that we have actually a very strong commercial to business percentage mix of property. We have a very desirable 75-25 split, 75% residential, 25% business. Many communities would love to break below 90% on their residential, so we're fortunate there. Then they look at your management, and in this case here, it's through their interaction with you, and then also what are your written policies, and what you actually do and what's your performance been. Budgetary performance, do you come in on budget? Do you develop reasonable budgets? Do you stick to them? Budgetary flexibility when tough times come, how you're able to manage, which we do that very well. Your liquidity, we don't do any short-term borrowing in Foxborough. There's no need. You'll be surprised how many communities actually do that. And just to go out to market, to do a simple note is, could be 50, 75 grand just to do that, let alone, pay it back with the interest. They look at your debt position, how you're managing your, what they call contingent liabilities, but it's the OPEB liability, the retiree health benefits, and the pension benefits. They look at that, which we're very strong in all of those categories. And then they look at something called the institutional framework, which is, in essence, the institutional framework that we have to operate within, which is the state of Massachusetts and the federal government, and how supportive and consistent they are. And we have no control over that, but the good news is that that's obviously very strong for Foxborough. So across all of these categories, we're very strong in the one area that we can make an obvious improvement in is to formalize these policies. That's in a nutshell. I could go on for another 10 minutes, but I figured I'd just take your questions to go where you want to go.
Mr. Chair, I will just add, in having just managed in a community where we went through this very same process and achieved the AAA rating, that everything that Randy has said is exactly the same steps that we took in depth, and that we went through the, I think we actually did some things in reverse order, where we did the policies up front, and then we're able to achieve a lot of the various functional pieces beyond that, as built around those policies. So effectively what you've done here is that you've built everything except the policies, and so that's the one remaining piece that I think that will sell well to Standard & Poor's, and certainly will push us over the top. I think what's key is the fact that the town has positioned itself well in recent years by having AA+ rating for a number of years now, and then it also basically has a positive outlook going into this process where those are, you know, Standard & Poor's particularly is very structured in its rating process, and that the very next step would be to go to AAA, provided that they felt comfortable that the AA+ with a positive outlook was there for a while, which it has been.
Right.
So I think we're well positioned to get to that next level. And I think it's also important to note, because I think when we talk about these things, a lot of people think, well, you know, the town is flush with money, so as a result, you know, we can do anything we want to do whenever that happens. I think that the most important thing for people to think when they come through this process, or come out of this process, that it's not that we're flush with money, it's that the money we have, we manage it very well. And I think that's what the rating agencies say to us by looking at all the processes that we do, is that whatever money they have, it's managed well, and it's protected well, and it's invested well, and it's and you position yourselves well to protect yourself against any significant downturn in the economy or in your local situation. So that's what they look for, and that's what they should be looking for, and that's how they rate communities across the country. So I think that it speaks well of what you've done here over the past several years in preparing for this scenario, but I think it speaks well going into the process.
Right. And I would say, to emphasize, you know, Bill's point about how well you manage everything. I don't know if you've read what happened in North Attleboro recently. Just to, not to pick on North Attleboro, but or contrast us with them, but just to understand, why did they get downgraded? North Attleboro was recently downgraded. And the reason is that they have dipped into their stabilization fund 4 times over the last several years just to balance their operating budget. I think for those of you who have listened to me talk about the stabilization fund in the past know that that is taboo. Once you touch your regular stabilization fund, that is a red flag, immediately reportable to the rating agencies, and then you're being watched, and is it short term or not? And so obviously they're unable to dig out of it at this point. So the fact that we're able to, as Bill said, you know, so keep everything managed well. We don't necessarily, you know, we're not necessarily flush, but what we do have, you know, we manage it as prudently as we possibly can, as the taxpayers and the board would expect.
Randy, a quick question. If you want to walk up the ladder from where we've been to where we want to go, if you were to go back to the AA- and then the AA+ and ultimately the AAA, what does that mean as far as the cost of money in today's borrowing environment?
Sure. Interestingly enough, going from the AA- to the AA+, on balance, you know, as a benchmark, is worth about, and again, it's going to vary by market conditions, but our experience was it's worth about 50 basis points or 0.5% in interest costs. So instead of borrowing at 3%, you'd be borrowing at 2.5%. That's going from AA- to AA+. So we achieved that back 6 years ago, and so that saved us about $1.5 million in interest charges, you know, over the last 6 years. But going from a AA+ to AAA, you're already a very good credit. So the variance in the interest rate is much smaller. Rule of thumb is about 15 basis points. That's what we see. You know, when we look at you know, what communities that issue at AAA, AA+, AA-, and you can see the trends, and our financial advisor tracks that for us, and so it's pretty easy to see what the differences are. But 15 basis points, that means, you know, 0.15% of one. So on $1 million, that's $15,000 a year on a 20-year bond. You know, that's you know, that's $150,000. So may not seem like a lot, but in Foxborough, you know, every 15,000 is important.
Now, do you have to go through that audit process only when you go out to borrow, or is that done annually?
It's typically only when you go out to borrow, but when you with the Standard & Poor's, if you haven't borrowed in 3 years, they will initiate a credit review, which is what they did this year. We hadn't borrowed, you know, since 2012.
Okay. I have a couple. Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, you know, with the new growth and the new businesses coming to town and the expansion development, do you have any idea why the town's market value fell by 3.1%?
Is that the overall market value?
Yep. overall?
One thing to, and is that's based on assessed value, you're looking at our EQVs, equalized values. One thing to understand when we're looking at assessed values is that you're looking at values that have been recorded 18 months ago. So when you're looking at the value that's associated with your property, know that it's 18 months old. That's just because it's based on data that ended 18 months prior to you being valued. So I would say 18 months ago we were still coming out of it, and it's really there's no simple answer other than that's what the market in this town experienced. Whether it was I believe it was more so on the commercial side than on the residential side this year, but that's what we experienced.
In their report, they're saying it fell by 3.1% over the past year, not 18 months.
Right. No, I'm saying that the inflection point, the point that they're measuring, is 18 months old.
Okay. And one other question: property taxes make up 60% of revenue. How much of that is residential? How much of that is commercial? What's the breakdown? It's
approximately 75%. And with the split tax rate, it's probably 73%.
Residential.
Residential, right? Yeah, the largest burden is on the residential taxpayers.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Ginny or Chris?
No, I'm good.
Ginny?
No, I'm just very proud of the financial situation of the town. We don't make headlines in the newspapers.
We don't, which is good, but it's not. This is not a one-hit wonder thing. This is, as Bill alluded to, it's the long history of the town, the long history of the policy boards, and the voters, the taxpayers. There's no one.
Right.
There's no one ingredient here. It's everything, and making it all work.
Yeah,
well
Randy,
together.
not the sexiest of subjects, but this is the nuts and bolts of how we hold the town together. So, thanks for pushing this forward.
Happy to do it. That's what I like to do.
So Randy, on to getting from operating practices, which a lot of how we're running things now, to formalizing and into policy, any type of a timeline, and then which steps? Are you going to plan on coming to us to dot the I's, or is this an interim step where we say, all right, these are our practices, these are our policies we're trying to get to, and how do you get there? Do you have a financial advisor that you're working with, or are you coming up with this?
We do. I mean, there are, there are policies. There are several policies out there that you can look at. Obviously, they have to be Foxborough-ized, and that's the work that Lorraine is doing right now. It has to reflect our experience. How do we operate? But to answer your specific question about what is the interaction with the policy board, and this is open to the board redesigning this right here and now, or later if you'd like. But my thinking is that the audit committee would do the nuts and bolts work. So I'm very happy with the group that's on the audit committee. A good cross-section, very good group of people, and that we would make our proposal to the audit committee, and the audit committee is not shy about making changes. I don't know if you recall, but when we started down the road of making some significant health plan design changes, either with the retirees or how to begin to invest in for our OPEB planning. Those are recommendations that came from the audit committee. So my thinking is that we would replicate that, given that that's an appointed committee that is charged with looking at such things, and ultimately, after their vetting, make a recommendation to this board here, and we can go back and forth as many times as the board would like.
But Randy, those policies aren't trivial, because the ratings bureaus are going to audit you to the letter that, how well that you're adhering to those policies.
Yeah, when you come back, the next time around, the policies that you put down, that's your roadmap, and they're not that difficult to validate. So that's why it's not a small matter to formalize them, because they should be things that that in general the policy boards are comfortable with. But I would say the worst-case scenario, not to downplay expectation, but the worst-case scenario is that if we hit AAA and we come up with these great policies and we vary slightly and we go back to AAA plus, you know, the big gain for us was going from AAA minus to AAA plus. That's not my expectation. If we achieve AAA, that I would want to maintain that. One of the things that Lorraine found that I'm really looking forward to introducing, so it would be easy for any lay person to understand where we are on the key financial policies, is a one-page dashboard. You know, with you know, here's the policy, here's what we've achieved, check mark that we are on target, or an X, we're not there. So it's just really easy to look across the board and see it. There's not a huge lengthy list of policies. There's a few, but they're all, you know, it's about you know, 7 or 8, and certainly we can fit that on one page, and it's easy to review and see as we're going through budget processes, you know, how does this affect things.
In the processes for the advisory committee, 2 different things. They're reviewing the budgets and all that stuff, but do you envision bringing them into any of this for review, or they're the last reviewing agency before decisions are made?
The good news there is that we have a sitting member of the advisory committee on the audit committee, and Larry Thomas. I'm very happy to have Larry on the audit committee and looking forward to engage him there. So, you know, my expectation is that not only would I be looking to bring these back to the advisory committee to review them with them, but the fact that Larry is on the committee, you know, my expectation there'd be some liaising that's going on to give updates on how we're progressing.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
So actually, what you're creating is a fiscal master plan. So now we'll have a fiscal master plan. We have the planning board planning master plan. We have water and sewer developing their water master plan. So the town is really getting everything together. We're approaching the 21st, formalizing everything, and really,
well put.
You know, working together. And,
yes.
Yeah.
That's
really
great. That process of working with the various committees is actually very interesting. Some really good ideas get exchanged during that process. Things that I recall going through the process just to get the formal policies, and then we went to issues about capital development. Issues, things that, you know, looking at over the longer term, how we were going to invest our money and put things on a schedule so that we knew when it was important to replace a building, the most expensive assets, of course. So we wanted to make sure that we're constantly on that schedule, so that the town's value and the value of their services did not diminish over time. So it's actually a very, very interesting process. It's one which I'm looking forward to working with Randy on and the various committees to help pull together.
Great.
Randy, who does the town use for a financial advisor?
First Southwest, and our the senior vice president that we work with is Peter Frazier. I think he handles at least half of the communities in the state of Massachusetts. He's quite good.
We've been with them for a while?
Yes, yeah, I believe since before I got here. Very pleased. In fact, he and his staff, the ones who put together that, I emailed you a document today comparing us to other AAA rated communities, and you can see sort of where we rank on the various metrics that they would be looking at. It's an interesting comparison because I'll just say it, we're weak in some areas that we really don't have any control over. And that's why I never fully expected that we would be having this conversation about you know, going for AAA. You know, we're weak in per capita income, per capita value, you know, property value, EQV, equalized value, but we're strong in so many financial areas. But in those 2 areas, which you really can't control, there's only so much property that is taxable, and the income of the community is the income of the community. And that's not to say that either of those are in bad shape, but in comparison to other AAA rated communities, you know, we stack, you know, towards the bottom there. But I think what S&P is doing, and one of the reasons why I made the shift, is that they're giving more credit to the other things that are actually, you may be swimming in a smaller pond in terms of, you know, how affluent your community is and how much taxable property you have, but you're managing within that as best as you possibly can, and the risk to a default is de minimis. So I think, so S&P gives you more credit for that than Moody's does. I believe S&P's AAA list is 35 communities, so about 10% of the state, whereas Moody's is 6.
It's interesting too how it shifts just a little bit, but from each time to time it gets done. But the last time I went through this process, the big issue was OPEB. Did you have a plan for addressing OPEB? Well, Foxborough does. I mean, to its credit, there's only a handful of communities in the Commonwealth that has that plan, that have that plan.
And if you look at the chart, it'll actually stack us up against the other communities on OPEB. We stack up really well.
So those are key components.
Good news. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
So the next item we had on the agenda was town manager recommendation for salary adjustment for finance director, obviously Randy Scollins. As a judgment call, I took this off the agenda and I wanted to explain why. I got some correspondence from a couple board members with a lot of questions on, I think going back, personally, I think this department where Randy sits is probably the most important department, separate from public safety and saving lives. The health and safety of the finances is paramount in this town. What we got back, and this is not a slight of what you gave us, but it was a one line that said, "This is my recommendation for Randy."
Sure.
I wanted some more. Going back again before your time, the town manager is responsible for doing the review. So I don't think anyone on this board wants to or is qualified to do a review of our financial director. But I did want to hear some of the goals and objectives in the department and how they're working. I wanted to see the contract. I wanted to see his past, his raises and skips of raises and things like that.
Yep.
I think we owed it to the board to at least have that information and have a robust discussion rather than just taking your word for this is what you recommend. I mean, you put a number out there. It's hard to say, did you want more, or he was good, but we only wanted this, or vice versa. Right. So I think we have to have more discussion on that.
I'm happy to do that. That's not a problem for me. This is the first time I've gone through this process in this community, so obviously it varies from place to place, and so I'm happy to provide any information you need. That's not an issue. And once I heard there was concern, that I actually agreed we should take it off and just wait until we have all the information we have to answer everybody's questions and move on from there.
Okay. And then I know you guys probably emailed them directly, but
in fairness to everybody involved, I mean, I don't want this to be misread by anyone.
And that's why I'm. Anytime you do a review of anyone in the public, it's an uncomfortable situation. But I'll turn it over to the board if there's any directions or questions you have different from what I'm saying.
No, I agree. I mean, it was one line item with nothing in the packet to back it up, so I mean, nobody could make a sound judgment, and nothing against what either anybody's doing. It's just
no, happy to do it. Whatever information you need, just feel free to let me know. For whatever you're looking for, I'll be happy to
we get at that the next meeting? Is there enough time to get all that
I hope so. I mean, I want to go through whatever questions there are, and I want to make sure I'm answering them properly and giving the proper backup information. So that's my plan. My plan is to try and have enough for next meeting.
All right. Does that make sense with you, Randy?
It makes perfect sense to me, John.
Okay. I figured I'd grab you before you left the room.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Randy.
All right, a little bit behind. Our next item is at 7:45, so we're 20 or so minutes late. Frank Spillane and Jeff Salatin. Presentation and discussion on the Foxfield Plaza redevelopment. So in our packet, there was just a one-page letter that kind of summarizes that they're going to come in, give a presentation, and talk about the request for annual licensing discussion. So at that point, I'll turn it over to you, Frank. I'll turn this over to you.
All right.
I got to say, though, we've been watching it from the sidelines as you've been going through the different boards and seeing the updates. It's a pretty exciting project.
And it is.
We're excited.
It is. If I can just, I'll maybe do a brief introduction. I'm familiar, obviously, I think everybody's familiar with the area they're talking about. It's Foxborough Plaza, which is, my understanding, has been the focus of many different proposals over the years. This one has some legs to it, and which I'm pleased to see. And I'm familiar with Jeff's company. I worked with Jeff in my previous role as town administrator in Seekonk, Massachusetts, and worked with him on a project that actually did almost the same identical thing. They took an old, tired building, plaza, that needed some improvements, and rejuvenated the entire plaza, rebuilt it, and wherever it needed to be rebuilt, and added some additional elements to it, which made it even more exciting, which I think is what they're doing here as well. And ultimately, we ended up with a much more vibrant location that everybody in the community was very happy to see and see brought back to life. So my experience working with Jeff is that he's very responsive to what the community is looking for, as well as the fact that he has a really good understanding of how these types of plazas work and what makes them tick and how they can really be rejuvenated into the community. So I was pleased to hear that he was involved in this project, because if anybody could do it, he could probably do it. So
thank you very much.
So I'll turn it over to Council.
Thank you. Attorney Frank Splain here with Jeff Salatin of the Salatin Real Estate Group, who's going to be redeveloping and rehabbing the Foxborough Plaza at 369 Central Street. Before I ask, we're here for two reasons, actually. One, to give you a brief overview and introduction of the proposal, and also to talk with the board about the possibility of having a town warrant article for the fall winter town meeting to get two new liquor licenses for restaurants for the site, as well as one new package store for the site. But before we get into that, we'd just like to give the board a brief overview of where we are on the site and where we're going to be going. I know the board is very familiar with the site, Foxborough Plaza down at 369 Central Street. It's an old site. It's been there since at least the 50s. It's a little over 11 acres. 85% of it's in Foxborough. Approximately 15% of it's in Mansfield. It's a difficult site to rehab and redevelop for a number of reasons. Originally, Central Street was its main entrance. Central Street used to be Route 140, and there was nothing really behind it at the very beginning, and that's why everything on the site faces Central Street. As the board knows, there are two buildings on there now, what I call the L-shaped building, and the Foxborough Furniture Building, which is always going out of business and coming back into business.
Good old hobby.
What Jeff and his development group is going to do is they're going to demo approximately 1/3 of the L-shaped building and demo the Foxborough Furniture Building. And then they're going to rehab the remaining area for the L-shaped building. And Jeff can get into that a little bit more, but they'll be redoing the inside and the outside so it looks brand new. Also, there's going to be a hotel developed there, and 3 pads, 2 of them for restaurants and 1 for an office of some kind. Right now we're labeling it as a bank, and we hope to get a bank in there, but it'll be some kind of offices. As I know the board knows, there have been a number of developers, Big Y being the last one that's taken it all the way through the permitting process, but the end didn't develop it. There are many reasons for that, mainly because it's a tough site. It's in the highway business district, but it's really surrounded by 4 districts. One is residential, which is across Central Street, and also behind the L-shaped building. Also, there's limited industrial in the area, as well as highway business, which it's zoned in. But also you have a Mansfield residential district. So because of all the different districts, you have different setbacks, different requirements. not only within the highway business, but from the other zones. So it's a very hard site develop, but I think Jeff's done a great job with what they're trying to do. And Jeff can get into that a little bit more. But what they're trying to do is make the main entrance seem to come off of 140 and Forbes Boulevard right there. And that's why they're going to be demoing a third of that building, getting rid of the Foxborough Furniture building. And the reason why they located the office and the restaurants in the front there. So that is their main entrance, and that's where the large portion of their traffic is going to be coming off of Route 140. And that's the reason why they're opening it up. I know the board is aware that we've been in front of the Board of Appeals for special permits and one variance. All of those were approved. Right now we're in front of the planning board, and we'll be going in front of conservation with regard to this project. Even before we went before any of the boards, we met with all the neighbors to go over it, got some ideas from them, got a lot of positive feedback from them. But we also met with the town planner at the time, the building commissioner, the town manager, to go over this, show them what we're doing, and get their ideas and their input with that. But again, the focus is going to be coming off of 140, so we can draw the people, and we feel there's going to be a real need for restaurants to really make this development very much sustainable. So with all that said, I'm going to let Jeff really kind of go over a little bit. If Jeff, you can remember to speak into the mic so everyone can hear you.
Thank you very much for allowing us to come before you today. My name is Jeffrey Salatin, and our company is Salatin Real Estate Group. This is the type of redevelopment and repositioning that we have done for many years. We seem to be attracted to very well located yet very tired, somewhat white elephant properties, and we try to take them and create a growth district. We try to create an energy significant redevelopment improvements, and it ultimately creates jobs, and it generally expands beyond just the work that we do, because the whole neighborhood seems to benefit from repositioning these properties. The good news for us is that we're a user. We have an affiliated entity that will build and develop and operate the hotel. So we didn't need to pick up an asset to begin to work on and then go out and shop for tenants. So when we came to the site, we knew that there was a demand for a hotel, and the hotel that we're planning on putting here is a 139-room Hampton Inn and Suites hotel, which is a limited service hotel. They just serve that free breakfast in the morning. There's no bars and there's no restaurants. The property, as Frank said, when it was originally built, it was focused on the traffic coming off of Central Street. And of course, Central Street is an old Route 140, and then Foxborough Boulevard, I believe, became 140, and now the 140 is out here at Commercial Street. One of the biggest problems this site has had for quite some time is trying to get some income into the pocketbooks of the tenants, because a lot of people don't even see it, and they don't know that it even exists. And so there's some wonderful people that have been there for years. They're all tenant at wills, but several of them I think would be a good fit for our redevelopment plan. We've talked to each and every one of them, and even though they're tenant at wills, they're really quite wonderful people, but the volume is really tough. You know, I just was eating at the Bangkok Cafe 5 minutes ago before I came here, and the food was like stunning, but I was the only customer on a Tuesday night there. There's a lot of takeout, you know, 5, 6 people running in and out for takeout, but you know, all the people that are in the 2 million square foot Cabot Park across the way in the Foxborough Park, or people that are moving on 95 or up and down Route 140, they probably don't really realize the kind of restaurant that I ate in tonight. So the one thing that we've done so far is we began to talk with the neighborhood. We began to meet with the department heads. We went before planning. We're still in the planning process. The Zoning Board of Appeals has been wonderful to work with. And so our thought is to open up the view corridor off of Route 140. And we've met with your Conservation Commission. There's a lot of wooded areas there, and we've developed some plans that I think they're very comfortable with for us to maintain on a perpetual basis. The sensitive areas that's in this area that's right now presently very wooded. You know, there's no pylon sign presently out here on Commercial Street, so many people just look at it right now as the back of some old building, because as you drive in from Route 140, that's really what you see. You see the back of the building. We expect to close on this property within days. Our money is sitting in escrow, and the seller has to deliver a couple more documents. But I think Mr. Smith is finally going to be selling his property maybe as soon as 2, 3, 4, 5 more business days. May take another week and a half or so, but we expect it'll close very quickly. What we wanted to do is come in today to give you sort of our feel. I didn't bring any engineers with me, but I have a pretty good understanding of the engineering, so if you have any technical questions, I'll try to answer them. But our preliminary traffic impact studies results that we read and observed is about 87% of the people that come through this parking lot use it as a cut through from Central Street out to Route 140. And only 13% of the people actually are doing some business in the shopping center. So what we wanted to do is not to discourage people from using this, but to, number one, slow them down, and to create a main street, sort of an old-fashioned main street. So we put this curve in our road system, and we did it and lined it with street trees and old-fashioned lantern type lampposts with sidewalks on both sides, with walkways from the hotel into what's going to be a remaining 46,500 square feet of retail space. And we wanted to line up the new pads that we were building along what we wanted to make it feel like a main street. And by doing that, we feel that we'll significantly slow down the traffic. And in front of the hotel, at this point right here, what we did is we created a raised table with a different material, such as pavers, so that as people come through that main street, it won't be all at one level. People won't just continue to speed through there. We'll sort of slow them down with that raised table. We think it's aesthetically very pleasing, but it was designed that way to just slow the traffic down. There's stop signs in here now. Nobody really observes them. They just keep scooting right through.
Yeah, they're a suggestion.
Pardon me?
They're only a suggestion.
Just a suggestion. Yeah, I know.
In Massachusetts, all stop signs
are just a suggestion. But people not only roll through these, though, they just speed right through them, you know. So what we are hoping to do as well is in this Foxborough Boulevard and Forbes Boulevard intersection, it needs some significant improvement. And so we've been looking at a lot of different options here, but the ultimate decision is in the hands of DOT because they own all these roads. And we are just about finished with the traffic impact research that we have, and our engineers, Dupree Engineering, are working with DOT to try to figure out what to do in here. I mean, one option is signalization. Another option is 4-way stop signs with a flashing red at all times. Another option we're looking at is the possibility of a roundabout. And so there's a lot of economics that go to it, but most of that decision, if not virtually all of it, is a DOT-controlled decision. We have been all over this site engineering-wise. We're pretty far along in our detailed engineering for the site. DOT wanted us to totally remove the drainage from the connections that are presently out on Central Street, and there's a crown in the site just about where my finger is pointing. And so what we've done is we've taken all of the drainage from here over into these basins and cleanse the water, and then we're bringing it back over to this side of the site, and then we're also controlling this portion of the runoff in these basins here. And ultimately, all of the water hooks up down the line in Mansfield with the connection that we're disconnecting from, but we didn't want to take clean water and throw it into dirty water. So what we did is we just cleaning the water, which is quite costly on a site like this, but it's working out very nicely. And I'm not an expert on the engineering that Depreet has done, but it's pretty extensive. Then the water is underground after we clean it here in these basins. And right now, the parking is almost right out at the curb. So what we've done is we've pulled back the parking. There's a lot of planting areas. We've worked also with your fire department to be sure that they can get trucks the size that they need for a hotel around all sides of the hotel. The 46,500 square feet, that building is old and tired, and we thought we'd put a New England style facade on the building with dormers, all new roofs, all new HVAC equipment. Of course, it'll all be sprinklered now, but everything would be brought up to code. The hotel is 4 stories, 139 rooms, as I said, and it will be a Hampton Inn. But it'll be combined with Hampton Inn and Hampton Inn Suites. The biggest challenge that we feel that we're going to have here is trying to make sure that the site can be seen, but at the same time be sensitive to the Conservation Commission's needs. And I think that we've accomplished that, and we're working with them right now on the formal plans, but on a preliminary basis, I think they were glad to work with us. If you have any specific questions, I'd be delighted to answer them.
Just when the catch basins and your water collection system, there it looks like it's above ground and invisible.
Everything is below ground, but this is, I forget exactly what they called them, Frank, do you remember?
Are you talking about the detention basins?
Yeah, these detention basins.
Yeah.
But they're landscaped around. They're meant to store the water and then to to slowly let the water go out to its ultimate connection. But I really am not an engineer, so I don't want to give you any info that's wrong.
But stormwater is eventually going to make it through to Mansfield?
It's going to make its way back through into Mansfield, then it connects back up with the same collection system that's out on Central Street, is what I understand.
Okay, so you're going to have 2 ways to get to that same collection system.
Well, yes, but we are not putting anything out in Central Street. So everything from this side of the site is going into these basins, then it's connected underground coming out, and then everything from this side is coming into this basin.
Right. Yep.
It's all going to go naturally into the aquifer below it, and then eventually downstream.
So basically, you're just recharging the stormwater.
Yeah, there's a huge area in here, as you can see in this area, and a lot of what was done under here was constructed by man. I think there's a lot of piping and everything that goes underneath Forbes Boulevard.
How close is the hotel to Mansfield? It looks like that's the border.
There's the border right there.
Well, that is the border.
Yep.
And what we did is we purchased an additional lot. There was a home on the lot that had been knocked down. It was a home apparently in disarray for many years.
Mansfield?
No, that's in Foxborough.
The hotel is 50 feet off of the side yard, which is what's required under zoning.
So do you not have to go through any approvals in Mansfield?
No.
None whatsoever. And we own a lot of land in Mansfield.
Everything
but
is
we're
on
not.
the Foxborough land, so we don't need any approvals from Mansfield.
The intersection, I know the last time that was a huge thing. Do you anticipate it going right through with DOT? Is that gonna slow things down?
Well, the intersection I think you're speaking of is down by the old Bradley's Plaza.
Oh, I thought it was that intersection right there.
No, that intersection wasn't the
Central and
issue.
140.
Oh, okay.
It was the one at about an hour, about an hour and a half,
hour.
about a mile and a half down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the one we were trying to
Oh, I
get,
thought it was always this intersection that
No.
held
trying to
that
get
up
lights up at
before.
the other
Yeah.
intersection.
Right. And I haven't seen the final traffic study yet, but as Jeff said, what we've been told is the numbers are much less than the big Y's numbers. So we're hoping that it's not going to trip anything with regard to that intersection that you're speaking of.
That has not become, we've been on this now, what, Frank, about 5 months?
Yeah,
Yeah.
6 months.
And it has not become an issue at all for us, even though it has been an issue in the past under the Big Y development. This issue here is an issue that we're very concerned about, because during certain key hours, you know, it's a bit of a mess there. And so there's enough paved area here for us to consider a roundabout. There's a possible problem getting a signal because you have to have a warrant that the DOT decides will work and that it won't be a broken system. But the reason you see a signal there is that that's what we thought would be a really good solution when we first started to work on it. But something has to happen there to improve it. I mean, it's not a gridlock, but you know, it's pretty sloppy.
Yeah, in key commuting times, you get a lot of traffic coming from the train station heading back towards Foxborough, going right through.
Right through there, yeah. It's a problem, and we should have an answer on that pretty soon, especially during the planning board process. I would think our next meeting with the planning board is September the 24th. I believe they canceled it, didn't they?
Yes, on
It was
Thursday.
going to be for the 10th, I think, and they moved it to the 24th.
A question on your current tenants: are they going to have to vacate the property while you rehab it? They going to have to relocate somewhere else?
Some of them can stay in place so we can work around them.
Yeah.
The portion that we're demoing, like the Bangkok Cafe,
Right.
what we'll do is if they elect to stay, and by the way, they would like to stay, is the message that I can deliver to you, because they've been there 23 years. We would get a new space ready for them, and then they could move over probably, you know, after closing for about 3 weeks, 4
not
weeks.
bad,
Yeah. There's a wonderful deli in there. Antonia's Deli does a lot of.
Certainly is good,
yeah, it's wonderful. Does a lot of catering. There's a big empty here. There's about 26,000 square feet right here. Harvey's been using it as a warehouse for his furniture. That's a bit of a challenge. That's one of the reasons that we come before you. We've had a conversation with a significant package store, and that we think could be a good use for that box. We've been talking to the fresh markets of the world, and you know, the smaller little markets, like the Sudbury Farms has one, but we don't have a user. We don't have a user for that. That's a big challenge, because it's deep, and it also goes back behind this strip. But I'm sure we'll get to a solution. The type of restaurants that we envision, we have no restaurant to report to you, but I mean, it could be an Applebee's. You know, today Applebee's have a need for a liquor license. It could be a better restaurant, a better quality restaurant. Luciano Carnova, who operates Luciano's, is a tenant of ours in South Kingstown, at a place he calls Trattoria Romano. You know, so with all of the, and I haven't talked to Luciano about this, but you know, with the 2 million square feet across the street at the Cabot Park, and with what Meditech is doing here now, and GE, and the fact that it's only a quarter of a mile off of 95, I could even envision a much better restaurant like a Trattoria Romano's could do very well here. There's a lot of hotel rooms, as you guys know, and there's still a demand. So, and there's a lot of the sports bar type restaurants already in place. Jake and Joe's and 99. So I can see us attracting a higher quality restaurant. But in order to do that, we're gonna need to provide for them a opportunity to be able to have a liquor license to meet their needs. So that's why we came before you.
So can I add, I mean, I like the site plan. You're gonna be going through process with the planning board, zoning board, conservation, DOT. So, I mean, this is interesting for us, but we don't, our purview is really liquor licenses, and anything else is just liquor licenses that you're,
Yes.
okay. So let's do the math. What do we have there now? We have Bangkok, we have Antonia's, and that's it?
And there's a Mandarin Chinese
Okay,
restaurant
so
there.
there's three.
And I'm not sure they're gonna stay, and they have the ability to take those licenses with them if they don't stay, any of those restaurants. I mean, we would like to talk to them.
Antonios, this is a beer and wine, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Beer and wine. Yeah, correct.
Antonia's, they can't serve beer and wine in they can only sell it
And take out.
take it out.
Yeah,
Because they can
yeah, they were in front of us
they
last
can
year. It's a
display it.
unique
Right, and
situation.
it's very unique, and they have just a, I wish even what they do have, they probably could market more. They just have a little rack
Yeah.
of some wine bottles there. But apparently, I think the son operated a small beer and wine package store there,
Wine bin.
Yes.
The wine bin, yeah.
and
If you-
decided to give up on it.
If you remember, I was the attorney for them.
Yeah.
What they envisioned is at some point, the site, Jeff wasn't around at the time, that the site was gonna be redeveloped.
Yeah.
And rents were gonna increase significantly. And they're looking to, expand their operation to give more to-go food. People coming in, grabbing, ready-to-go dinners for meals and things like that, and having the beer and wine to sell, to take home, would also make their new establishment more likely to succeed.
Yep.
So they were hoping to always stay there, but even if they had to move, they wanted to be able to expand what they could sell to their customers.
The good thing about them is you can't eat there very often because they give you a lot of food. It's a heck of a nice product. And the other thing that, if it wasn't for their takeout business, they probably would have already been closed, because at night they can't stay open past 6 o'clock because nobody even knows, it's there physically. But I've had many conversations with the family, and I think they'll be one of the tenants that will want to stay, and they'll certainly fit a redevelopment opportunity for us. And I think I think they can afford to stay, even though it's going to be a place that's no longer old and tired. You can't believe how many people are in there, believe it or not, that have air conditioning systems that broke years ago, and they're in there with no heat and no air conditioning. It's. I think there's like 3 tenants in there without heat.
So Frank, to make this work from a liquor license perspective,
Yeah. We're
this
requesting.
plan here, you're requesting what?
We're requesting 2 new restaurant all alcohol beverages annual licenses, as well as 1 new package store all alcohol beverages annual license. Site specific, similar to Chestnut Green.
So that's 2 new and 1 new, and then
Package store.
maintain the existing ones that are there?
Well, the ones that are there will remain with their owners. And if they say on-site,
Yep.
there'll be an additional.
Okay. So that's
but if they
2
go-
all alcohol, and then 1 beer and wine only that's there now? That's what I guess when I
That's
asked.
what's there now.
Yes.
Yeah, but Frank, none of those are site-specific, right? They can
They can
migrate.
go anywhere,
Right. And the hotel doesn't need one.
It does
No,
not need one.
no. And that's why having a restaurant on site is very important for the hotel.
Yep.
To make sure it can go, because people want to go and have something, and walking distance is very important.
And those out parcels along Robinson's Brook, that's just for view corridor, there's no additional foot pads going in there?
They're really swampland right
Yeah.
now. It's the name of the entity.
Wetlands,
Well,
yeah.
the name of the entity that Harvey had was swampland, but it's really, it's wetland.
Okay.
But we're working with conservation now to thin it out and actually to improve.
The view corridor. So that site plan that we're seeing is already into the detail phase, and
We've
there's no
already
other
filed
pads that are coming in?
conservation, yep.
Okay.
And that's not going to be totally cleared, that land. It's just opening up the view corridor.
The view corridor,
Yeah.
yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Frank, as you know, there's no all alcohol licenses available, so in order to do this, I believe the processes go through a special legislation process.
That's right.
And as part of the master plan, you know how the nodes were set up. We debated this last year, actually, to find out how many we might need to roll out the master plan and to take care of these individual nodes. So it might be a bigger question. But your time, if you could fill us in on the timing when you might need them, would be helpful.
Well, he hopes to break ground this fall.
On the hotel, if things continue at the pace that we've experienced working with your departments and all the boards, we might be able to demo the Foxborough furniture building yet this fall and do some foundation work and get the hotel open by the spring of 2017. The retail space, we expect to begin at the break of spring. We'll work on all the background work and all the design work and begin to break of spring and get the 3 pad sites ready in the break of spring. So the ideal situation for us would be to know that when a tenant, whether it's Outback Steakhouse or Carrabba's or Applebee's, is talking to us, you know, that we wouldn't mislead them, that we know that we'd be able to accommodate them based on their program needing a beer and wine license, or liquor license, excuse me.
Which would be in
Soon as feasible, you know, because we're starting to have dialogue with people, you know, right now, and of course we can't offer that because there's none available in the town.
We'd like to be on the February special town meeting warrant, but if there are circumstances that, you know, you would like us to wait to the annual, you know, we're more than willing to work with the town in any regard with that.
Last time this came up, I think it was supposed to be on last spring's annual, and we postponed it because it needed a lot of work. It was sort of going to be an inclusive petition to the state legislature for additional liquor licenses. We just needed to know how many and then where they would go. So I'm assuming that would have to be...
Yeah, and that's why I thought that when we talked about a fall town meeting, I thought that would be the time when we would be able to present the warrant article with the legislation. Not only for Foxborough Plaza, but also for the other nodes, because we were starting to put that information together. The legislation itself, the wording and everything wouldn't be difficult. You'd base it on what they did in Mansfield. They just did some legislation for site-specific.
Yep.
And
we've done it before with Chestnut Green. So
right, but the new wrinkle is that the state has said that these licenses, once they're issued, are good for 7 years. If they're not used within 7 years,
They go back.
They're gone.
That's right,
Yeah. So but what I'm saying is they've already worked out the language. It's more or less, you know, plug in. But what we have to do is know what we want to plug in, and that's. And I thought we were going to tackle that for this fall town meeting, but I guess not.
Well, we can still tackle it in
We
February.
can do it in February.
Right,
But actually,
but is
Frank,
that-
it's
is
reassurance
that
that
okay?
your
I mean-
your timing and the timing of this might work out.
yes.
It's not like you need them in 2 months.
No, that's correct.
No.
So if you're looking at sometime sort of beginning third quarter of 2016, I'm hoping we could find a way to pull that off.
Well, because, you know, once you get the thing in the fall town meeting in February 2016, the town of Foxborough agrees to have Representative Barrows file the legislation. Then you have to go through the process of the hearings and everything at the State House. So it's not going to be 2 weeks later.
No, of course not.
So,
I would
I
think
mean, you know.
the February town meeting would be better to be able to get the approval through the legislation than the annual in May because of the summer sessions.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it might not even be looked at until the fall.
Right.
Right,
And you're really holding things up.
right.
So I think this, you know, if there's such a thing as making our work easier, you know, we can talk about master plan and nodes, you know, kind of all we want, but we, the selectmen, would go in front of the town and say, we need, or
Right.
we would like X amount for this node. But what we see here is a definitive plan with a number on it. And people are either gonna say, this is a nice plan, we can support it, or they don't. So
Right.
our work is a lot easier.
Yeah.
Right.
Your work which was non-existent before because we were doing it, you would have to come up and say, this is what we're doing, this is why we want to do it. And kind of the private sector would expedite this process at the same time that we're bringing it to the public process. So
I think we were working with our late planner, I didn't, you know, Sharon. And her concern was when she wanted to have a warrant article that was really good, that was very easily acceptable to town meeting. And that was why we were going to do the research in regard to the nodes and stuff like that. But we always kind of had an idea of what we wanted to do. It was just we didn't come up with that number.
The only apprehension I'd see here is, you know, the different pads for the restaurants. I like the relationship with the hotel, being able to just walk and have a restaurant. The reason for having a liquor store is just because that's the square footage, so we can fit it in there. The need for a liquor store in town is something that I don't think was anticipated in this node. Restaurants were for the all like, you know, but not a liquor store. So that there's some thought process and discussion along that line. But as far as a site plan and vetting it through the process, I haven't heard a lot of negative, other than the past projects failed because of traffic or what have you. But you've certainly spent a lot of time on the detail and the thought process, which I appreciate on this site plan.
Yeah, and you've met with the neighbors, I'm assuming?
Yes, we met, I think, with somewhere between 18 and 21 families, and we met with them for hours. Some of them were there with us 2-3 hours. And we were very, very pleased to hear their thoughts. And they had some real great concerns, of course, like behind the old retail building, there's an old fence. Part of it was in good condition, part was in terrible condition, and, you know, sound and, you know, deliveries too early and too late, and picking up of dumpsters, you know. And so we were very easily able to accommodate all of their concerns, you know, by putting limitations in the lease when garbage people can pick up the dumpsters, you know, when delivery people can, you know, can deliver, put signs up so that if somebody shows up with a delivery, he doesn't park in the back of the building and sleep there until the store's open in the morning. And then many of them, they have been wonderful. I think 2 or 3 of them showed up at the Zoning Board of Appeals and spoke on behalf of the project without us, you know, asking them to do that. So it's been really a good relationship with the neighborhood.
So, Frankie, maybe you're aware of this. What we've been doing is putting on our agenda a running list of potential warrant articles. So we can continue this discussion. Our next meeting is September 22nd. And I guess if it's the, you know, obviously we're not in a position to make a decision tonight, but if it's okay with the board, go in that direction. Yep. Put the warrant article list back on the agenda for next meeting, and have this as a line item. Yep. To start that process towards town meeting.
Make sure I get signed. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, well, your point is well taken. Do we limit it to this project, that warrant article, or do we go on a grander scale and try to outfit the town with the liquor licenses that it may need for the next 5
Well, I know that there's an interest in other entities.
We've been approached with entities looking for them, sure.
I think we got to get something on that list as a placeholder.
Yeah.
Just for
Oh, no, that for sure, but I think amongst
it.
us, we need to debate which way we want to go. And the thing is, the timing of this is such that we might want to consider breaking it down into smaller pieces. So give that some thought.
All right, so we'll put this on the agenda for further discussion on this specific note here. All right, anything else?
Just thank you very much.
Thank you for
listening
taking
to
the time to come in and explain it to us. I appreciate that.
Thanks for ending all those going out of business sales. 3 couches of those.
He doesn't own it yet, no problem.
Yeah, you guys okay to keep going without a break?
I wouldn't mind a 2-second.
Do you want to? There are some people here for some of the action items. I just didn't know if you wanted to get to those, and then we can get to Bill's.
Are you here for an action item? Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't you?
Yeah,
why don't you come up? We'll jump on that right now. I wasn't aware of that.
I was just here for the first one, the accepting the roadway naming for London Estates.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were here for that.
Oh, that's okay.
All right, so,
I
yeah.
was enjoying this,
Hey, do you want to come up to the table and we can,
Actually, I can speak to this. I talked to Rich this morning, and I talked
Sure.
to Bill Greta this morning about that.
oh, okay, so
And-
this is acceptance of London Estates as two
Right.
roadway naming.
And the question, and I asked Bill, I said, is it typical or unusual to ask for the Board of Selectmen to bless the names of the streets when the project hasn't been approved? There's still a long way to go. And Bill said, well, I don't know. You're the first person that's ever asked the question about whether the selectmen deal with the naming of the streets before or after the plan, because the plan could change. And Bill said that, well, if the plan does change, or the plan's not approved, that those names will go back into the pool and be resurrected for consideration elsewhere. So he said it's really just a formality to say whether we like the names for that location or not. But just to let you know that the plan is not approved presently. And I talked to Bill, and he says it still has a ways to go. But he said he was completely indifferent on whether it comes before or after approval of the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, and getting back to the naming of the streets, historically, there was a concern, this was years ago on the planning board, there was a concern that they were coming up with some kind of strange names for streets, you know. And so the thought was, well, maybe we should go historical and get kind of the family names from, you know, names of historical families in the town of Foxborough. And there was a list. I think Jack Offlet put together a list. And traditionally, there'd been, you know, if the developer agreed to it, they, you know, they would just use those names. So that was one of the, and I don't think these two names were on the list, and that's probably why they were looking for the blessing of the selectmen.
Okay, so just so people at home know what we're talking about, there's a letter that was given to us by Bay Colony, dated August 5th, that said, on behalf of Briarwood Construction, they request the Board of Selectmen to name two roadways in the proposed London Estates subdivision, one for Jack Othelet and one for Charlie and Jeff Peterson. And then they go on to explain the reasoning to name the streets after those two families. They also said that they spoke with Paul Godin over at the Foxborough Historic, and he polled the members, and it sounds like they had no opposition to this. So I guess it goes down to, I guess we do have the final yes or no, but there is a process, and part of it is Historic Commission, and part of it is out of respect for all the other people that are on the list. Are we shortcutting it or creating something or sidestepping, or to your point,
Well,
approving something before the road's
maybe you
even done
know.
there?
I just that, you know, is it unusual to ask for this step before the project has been approved?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem whatsoever.
Oh, the names are great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but without it, the whole thing being approved, I don't really see how we can do it.
Well, right now, if you take a look at the plan, there's sort of a cul-de-sac, and then there's a second cul-de-sac off that cul-de-sac. So there's two roads. And, you know, basically, this is, you know, they come before the selectmen and say, can you just bless these names? And that's really what it comes down to. It does, this decision has no bearing whatsoever on the plan, and the planning board will deal with that.
No, I think these names are wonderful choices for this.
Well, Gray Road's already been taken, so that's done.
Any insight into this?
You know, I actually, John had actually called me this morning, and I said, it's the first time this has come up with my career, too. So I think it's really no harm, no foul, in the sense that if you like the names, you can say, you can probably, as a board, express the fact that you approve the names, but you're not going to approve it until the plan is completed, and wait and let that process play itself out.
The only apprehension I have, and again, I have no problem with the individuals named on this. Buckley had called me a while ago just to see what I thought, and I said, certainly bring it forward to the board for consideration. If there's a list out there with the Joneses on it, and the Jones was a military vet that perished, and, you know, and we're side cutting it, that not knowing the people on the list in that I just don't know the process.
Well, who's
to
the
be
keeper of
honest
the
with
list? Is it the planning board?
Well, it's like an unofficial list, and it was put together with the Historical Commission.
Okay.
Okay.
But if we were to say, where's the list, who would we call?
Yeah, and I'm kicking myself because I had that same question. I just don't remember what
Actually,
Bill
I think
Buckley had
it's, isn't
said.
it kept, I'm guessing here, because but anyway, this really has never come up, with the town clerk. The town clerk maintains a list of all the street names. I don't know if there's a list of
existing names,
existing
but not-
names, but not
Suggestions.
new names.
Yeah, that list is like suggestion of,
It is. I know I did a project in Marlborough, and it had to be named after a war veteran,
I see.
whether you knew the person or not. So they had a list, and then if you do roadway A, you go to the next one, and
It's a matter of
you don't
policy.
shortcut it. So I just don't know what our policy is on that. So if it's okay with the board, I think it sounds like people are happy with the recommendation, but take no action tonight and find out what the policy is, and if there's a list out there and how this fits into it.
It'd be good to know, because we're going to be doing more of these.
A question, are you the developer, sir, or are you?
No, I'm in the butter.
I see, okay.
Okay.
So-
Do you have insight into this, or are you for it or against it, or?
My concern,
If I could ask you just to come to the microphone, and we need your name and address for the record.
my name's Richard DeCoste, 12A Shea Lane, Foxborough.
Okay, that's where I knew you from, okay, yeah.
I'm in a butter, and a number of the abutters have a lot of concerns about the design of this parcel, which really doesn't affect this board at all. But the issue that comes up is that the developer has a cul-de-sac of almost 1,300 feet long, which is 490 feet longer than what is allowed under new regulations of 800 feet. So technically, he's breaking it up into two roads when it's really just one windy road that's in there. But the issue really is, should he be given the extension from 800 feet to the 1,290 feet that he's looking for, in order just to sort of maximize the number of houses there, which then create a whole lot of issues in terms of septic and water and roadway,
Okay.
planting, catch basins.
So
all
you're saying
sorts of things.
if you add roadway A, take a sharp turn, go on a roadway B, add those together, it's more than what the?
It's 1,290 feet.
1,290 feet.
Plus the two houses at the end of the cul-de-sac don't even they have zero frontage on the cul-de-sac. They're off of a little drainage swale that's even past it for another 100 yards, 100 feet, excuse me.
And then so that would be parcel A, bringing it back onto Main Street, but there's no plan for the roadway to go on a Main Street, that's just a drainage easement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, two separate items. I mean, this, I don't know where this is on the planning board and zoning board in process. They'll either approve it or disapprove it on their own merit.
Yep.
I guess our question is, if it's approved, are those two names appropriate, and what that process is? Where is this in the process of zoning board and planning board right now?
Planning board, they've been through, I think, 4 meetings right now, and there's been no review and no comments by the planning board members, so we're still waiting to hear from them as to all of the issues that have been raised.
Okay.
They've been through 2 Conservation Commission meetings, and they still haven't gotten any approvals other than just wetland delineation from that, so I would imagine it's a few more meetings with both before they do that.
Okay.
So.
Well, one question that came up was, if the Board of Selectmen issue the names, does that in fact put a sort of a stamp of approval on the project? And it doesn't.
Or influence the process?
And it doesn't. That's why I asked, is it right to come before the decision is made, or is it something that should come after? So that's why I asked. I called this morning, because I didn't know the process.
Yeah.
It's not an issue with the names with the abutters that I know of.
Yeah.
I don't even know the names at this point.
It might not be
so.
an issue with the abutters, but if someone's saying, all right, we've already given it the name, and then the planning board's gonna vote to approve or disapprove Arthurlet Way, it may be unfair.
The question is it starting to put decoration on the cake?
Yeah.
So,
Well, who's the poor guy that gets X'd out of the plan if it's only one name?
yeah. So,
Yeah.
But I think you're right, Jim. Let's take some time and look at the process and see how it goes. It's
Yeah, with no disrespect to Arthurlet or Peterson family, but let's just.
yeah.
So we'll put it on the action item for next if we can.
I think you're a ways away from seeing this. I mean, like, quite honestly, I think, just thinking this through logically, that you're putting a name on something that doesn't even exist yet.
We usually don't accept a street and a name until the whole thing is complete.
Oh, this is not a street acceptance, this is just.
No.
It's a detail at the end that's coming a little
It's usually
early.
at the very end of a
I think
process.
you want to tie that into the planning board process at the end, once the project is approved, and technically it's not even approved until
the roads are
in and accepted. I mean, it's
Yeah, but
still-
it's always named, people are gonna be living on it.
Yeah, because
with the
you
name.
need to do that for
Yeah, there was a
public
new
safety
development up in my
purposes.
neighborhood,
Right.
and the family that's lived there forever, the McNamara's, and they
Right.
decided to name it McNamara Way, and that was sort of,
Yeah.
okay, that's great. And it was,
Right.
but I'm not even sure at what point that was discussed.
So I do think that you want to at least wait till the planning board has its approval process completed, and then you technically have a project.
Yeah.
Because I think once you're correct, that you don't have to wait till town meeting to get the roads accepted, because we still need public safety reasons to have, and for post office reasons, to have a name and and a road identification. So I would, my suggestion to you is to wait till at least the project has been approved by the planning board.
Very good.
Okay, but in the meantime, we'll find out the normal process, if there's a
Yeah.
list, who
If
has the
there is a
list, and who's
process.
on the
Yeah.
list.
Or if there is one. Yeah.
All right, Richard, thank you, and thank
Okay.
you for waiting
Thanks,
2
Rich.
hours.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
that. Okay, back on our schedule. Well, actually, why don't we take a 2-minute break? Since we've been here since 6:30, so, Frank, if we could take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back at, say, 9:10. All right, welcome back. Continuation of our Selectmen's meeting. We took a quick break. So a couple items left on the agenda. We just finished off the Foxborough Plaza redevelopment discussion. So Country Fest debriefing and discussion. We just had the Country Fest, and what we typically do is basically a debriefing of the good, the bad, the ugly, if anything, so we can learn from it for next year. So you want to give us an update on that?
Sure. I prepared a report for the board and I'll read it into the record for you. This past August 28th and 29th, Gillette Stadium hosted several country western performers in what is marketed as the Big Revival Tour and what has been locally referred to as Country Fest. This year's performers included 5 different acts that was headlined by Jason Aldean and Kenny Chesney. On Thursday of this week, I convened a meeting of the town's public safety officials that included the Assistant Town Manager, Mary Beth Bernard, Police Chief Ed O'Leary, Fire Chief Roger Hatfield, Building Commissioner Bill Caspara, Public Health Director Pauline Clifford, and Stadium Advisory Committee member Micah Sharpa, for the purpose of evaluating our performance at this event and to identify issues that were observed during the event that we could help improve upon for any future such events. While we do not conduct such meetings for all events at the stadium, this particular event is considered one of the largest for the concert season, and an observation that this event can easily be transferred to other large crowd events throughout the year. Findings and observations. It was the general impression of all participants at the meeting that the event performed particularly well in comparison to previous large concert events. Arrests and protective custodies were nearly 30% lower than this same event in 2013. Medical treatments and transports performed on average in comparison to previous such events. Most of the treatments related to dehydration and excessive alcohol consumption. There were no reports of any serious injuries or fatalities. Some of the specific public safety statistics revealed as following. Total arrests were 52, with 24 arrests on Friday evening and 28 on Saturday. Total protective custodies were 142, with 71 on Friday and 71 on Saturday. Medical treatments, there were 310 on Friday and 290 on Saturday. Medical transports to medical facilities, 59 on Friday and 52 on Saturday. The performances started at 4:30 p.m. on Friday and 4:20 p.m. on Saturday. The performances ended at 11:22 p.m. on Friday and 11:40 p.m. on Saturday. The licensed end times for both concerts were 11:15 p.m. Accordingly, the performance ran 7 minutes late on Friday and 25 minutes late on Saturday. It's important to note that there were no curfew violation penalties applied for either of these nights, as the approval of these concerts occurred in November of 2014 and prior to the implementation of this new license requirement that began in January of 2015. Traffic on Friday night was more of a challenge at the beginning of the concert, but was not considered out of the ordinary for any of the weekend stadium events. Traffic cleared within 75 minutes following the conclusion of the concert on Friday evening, and Saturday's event had scheduled parking lot openings of 1 p.m., but due to the favorable weather conditions, the fans came earlier, which resulted in an earlier parking opening of a time of 12:30 p.m. Beyond this notable condition, traffic moved orderly before and after the event on Saturday. Some noise complaints were registered on Saturday in the early morning hours due to a support crew party that occurred following Friday night's performance. Foxborough police did respond to these complaints and dispersed the party. It is also noted that 2 complaints were registered on Saturday night during the performance for loud music. The building commissioner responded to both complaints and took decibel measurements, but did not find that the music level exceeded the noise violation standard of 10 decibels. Other observations from those assembled related to concerts are concerns over bus parking and some of the impacts that this crowd can have over those fans who will commute to the event. Bus passengers will often consume more alcohol than those who drive their vehicles. It was observed that long lines for bathroom use, particularly with female bathrooms, led to some unruly behavior. It was suggested that some additional portable devices may be needed to relieve this congestion. Finally, excessive drinking continues to be a concern that the staff would like to address. We welcome the opportunity to work more closely with NPS staff to try and come up with some creative solutions. In summary, the overall staff impression from this year's Country Fest concert was positive. Arrests and protective custodies were down and medical responses were stable. Our staff has several suggestions based on our observations that we would like to work with NPS staff to implement for future events in an attempt to enhance the guest experience and to further improve our public safety response.
Okay, thank you. So that touched on a couple items. Any discussion on the update? Debriefing, I should say.
Do you guys usually do this after the Country Fest?
Well, I haven't been here. I haven't been in place for the previous one. Last year, it was just one. It was Luke Bryant last year, so it wasn't really a Country Fest per se. Yeah. There were a couple other performers, I believe, but not at the same level that this event typically is. And so this is the first time that we did it, and I actually discussed this with the members of the Stadium Advisory Committee, and they thought it was a good idea, so that we can actually understand, you know, if there's ways that we can improve upon this experience. Because we were pleased to see that it was actually better than previous years. Yeah. So we're seeing if we can continue that trend in the right direction, then obviously I think that's positive for everyone.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea. I mean, we have after-action reports at work even for meetings after time, so it's definitely good. Now, does the stadium do the same thing, and do they share?
They actually do their own, right? And so it's going to be.
Are you guys invited to that?
I know that some of the public safety staff are invited to that. So we're going to. I have a meeting with some of the NPS staff this week, and I'll make the suggestion that we have a combined meeting of both efforts of both groups to try and come up with some ideas to further enhance the experience. We think that. You know, obviously, the more we work closer together on these things, the better it is for everyone. And I think that we've made some important gains in that area.
Do you get feedback from the individual public safety support, like the police from other towns? Does anybody gather feedback from them?
That information will go directly to the police chief typically. It wouldn't come to us individually. I think it all gets vented through into the police department for their information and suggestions. If there are staff recommendations, they would go typically back through the chief, and then the chief would obviously relay those back to us.
Yeah, the only reason I asked is I think it was last year I went to the Country Fest. You know, I went along with the Bill Caspara and Chief O'Leary and everything, and I wound up in the medical tent, and there were 2 police officers from another town, and one was there for a medical reason. And I was introduced as a selectman. He turned to me and he said, "You people don't. You should be having more public safety people on. You never have enough public safety." And then he stormed out, and the man who was with him, the other police officer, just kind of like went like that and walked out. So I never knew whether. I mean, that's what I experienced, but I don't know whether that was officially, if that was ever officially taken into consideration.
I don't know that it was. I can tell you that our numbers, our public safety numbers, were up this year. I believe, in terms of staffing. I do believe. My understanding is that the state police numbers were down due to competing events. So that may have created a concern across the street in the other lots, but I think that's something we constantly work internally with the public safety team. The police, fire chief work closely with state police as well as with NPS staff to try and manage the staffing needs there that are supposed to be there. Now, it's my understanding that team ops, which is the non-public police but internal safety team that works there, had close to 1,000 members registered for this event, just to work this event. Whether they actually had that number is a different question, which we're not sure. I can't be able to say I can confirm that, but my understanding was that they had close to 950 people registered to work for this event.
Yeah, over the years, we've certainly, Foxborough Public Safety has adapted what we did. The stadium has adapted their protocol.
Right.
And the show's changed. I mean, when it
Right.
first came out, it was a all-day.
Right.
It wasn't good.
Right.
Traffic, drinking, phone calls to selectmen about red cups everywhere and walking down the street with beers.
Right.
It's a lot different than that is
Right.
now. Just, I think
Culture's
because we have these
changed.
discussions.
Just shortening the hours of the
Yeah.
event. Make a big difference.
No, I really do agree with that. I think we're the culture is starting to change a little, and which in the right direction, I think. And I also think that the actions taken collectively by the MPS staff as well as the public safety staff in the town and the state police have really helped that a lot as well. So we want to continue that trend. We want to keep it going in that direction, so that this event becomes a safe event for everyone who goes. And while we may never ever achieve that, but that's certainly the goal that we like to achieve.
Is it possible, like when, like I know we've all kind of gone up to see what's going on, get the lay of the land and stuff like that. I mean, is it possible to go up when you see somebody from like out of town, a policeman from out of town, and say, hey, how's it going? How do you feel comfortable about this? Any problems? And then yes, no, and walk on. So I mean, ask the questions.
I think
they may
that's a
not
fair point.
they may be feeling something, but they
Right.
may not report it. But I'll tell you that policeman in that medical tent was not a happy camper. Let me tell you.
Interesting.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item. Is there any more discussion on this?
No.
And I
Thank you.
apologize, we're about a little over an hour late. I think we gave some liberties to a couple topics, but in fairness, we'll try to get through the action items a little quicker as well. So the next item is town manager update.
Well, this is probably the most busy agenda we've had in a long time, and it's because obviously summer is over, and so we're heading into a busy season. So we've got a lot going on right now. Just in the area of recruitment processes, we've got the library director final interviews were being held tonight. That's why Mary Beth left. Planning director, we're in the process of interviewing candidates now. They're going through that process, telephone interview process, narrowing in the field. They had about 15 candidates. Well, that may sound like a small number. That's a very specialized field, and so they have a limited number of candidates. Similar to the library director, we had a somewhat limited group as well. It's a very specialized field, so as a result, I think the candidates that I saw in both groups were good candidates. We had good quality candidates. So we didn't get quantity, we got quality. So that was okay as well. The Town Asset Review Committee met last week to try and identify and try to get some plans for putting some of the property that we own up for auction and trying to make some changes and get some actions going on that. And so they're also going to be working with the strategic planning group, which is also convened last week, which is made up of the Selectmen, the Water Sewer Commissioners, and the Planning Board. And so that group really focused on the extension of sewers and how that's going to play into the development process. And that also plays well into the discussion of the Economic Development Committee, which will have its first meeting on September 15th. That's a very good committee, which I've had some discussion with David already about how we're going to put together a packet for each of them to present them so we can hit the ground running with them. We've also got a draft agenda ready for that discussion to get going on the 15th. Just on some of the other fronts, Governor Baker has proclaimed September as Emergency Preparedness Month, which again falls in line with some of the actions that we take locally. This particular time of year is, of course, is Hurricane Awareness Month as well. So there's Hurricane Awareness season. So we're also very cognizant of keeping a close eye on the tropics to make sure that we're not being impacted by any of those major storms. I had the opportunity to meet along with Mary Beth, and I both met with Lieutenant Governor Polito this past week on September 1st at the Tri-Town Chamber meeting. She spent a few minutes after the meeting to talk with us about some of our specific issues, and we had a very good discussion with her. And a follow-up meeting will be held with Secretary Ash, Economic Development Secretary, coming up next week as well. So we're starting to develop those relationships and trying to get more and more support for some of the local things that we're working on, as well as in the Tri-Town region. One of the things that the Lieutenant Governor spoke about was the town joining the Community Compact Cabinet, which is something that we're already working on. Mansfield has already been accepted into it, so we're working on that right now. Pleased to see Lakeview Pavilion, its grand reopening this past week. It was a great event for everyone who could attend. Really happy to see them back online. They just did a beautiful job of rebuilding that facility. I met with Beacon Compassion this past week, and they are going to be holding, they've been providing more information for the community. I've got some more information to share with the board. They are having their public awareness discussion on September 16th at the library in the community room. So if anybody has further questions or issues about that, they may actually reach out and just provide an opportunity for board members to answer questions that you may have as well. So you may be hearing from them as well.
Would we have to post that?
No, if they reach out individually to us.
Right, not as a group, but individually.
But I mean, for this September, is anybody?
If you all intend to go, then we should probably just post it just to be on the safe side.
I'm gonna try to go. I might be in Philly, but I'm gonna try to go.
Okay.
Yeah. So could we just post it?
We should probably just to be on the safe side, post the meeting just to be on the safe side. Okay. I do plan to attend that myself. I did meet with NGrid this past week, National Grid, and they're looking to file their new improvements plan. That will be filed in November, and then they're also looking for a rate change, which will be filed in November as well. We'll also see the DPU starting hearings on provider rate changes as well, which are being proposed. They're two separate processes, two separate tracks, but National Grid's process will not likely become effective until next October. So that you'll be hearing more about that in the news, but I just want to make you aware of that. This week, the Patriots home opener was on Thursday night. Tonight we had soccer at the stadium with the U.S. versus Brazil. Very busy week up there this week. They actually brought, after last week's Thursday night's last preseason game, they brought in actual grass to put onto the playing surface, which the Revolution played on the real grass on Sunday night, and then now the game is being played tonight on the real grass, natural turf. After the game is over, they'll actually bulldoze that out and get the field, the actual turf field, ready for the home opener on Thursday night against Pittsburgh. And then following the game, they'll get the stage ready for a concert on Saturday night. So I wouldn't want to be one of those crew members up there this week. They're literally going to be working 24 hours right around the clock up there. So good luck to them on that. Very ambitious schedule, but they're going to try and pull it off. And then the Fireman's Ball is on Friday night. I know you mentioned that earlier in the evening, and that's actually sold out. So I'm glad to hear that. It's the first time it's been held in a couple of years, so we're glad to see that happen. And
What is
September
About 300 people, from what I understand, so it'll be September 11th.
I had
and
said
it's-
Saturday. I forgot it was Friday night.
Yeah, it's Friday night. So we're really pleased to say it. It'll be held at Lakeview Pavilion, so it'll be one of their first major events held at the property, so we're glad to see that. And then I just had we had a very I had a very touching call from Carly Nickerson, mother of Danny Nickerson. And what she'd like to do is ask that the town declare September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the town of Foxborough. And what she'd like to do is to post yellow ribbons around the common. And so I did a couple of things. First I consulted with Jim about this, and so I'd bring it up for tonight. As well as I talked with Jack Arthurlet, and I said, is there any concerns that you would have about this before I gave the approval to do this? And he said, no, I think it's a very, very worthwhile cause. Jim had the same response. And then I said the suggestion was that she put the yellow ribbons around the granite posts around the common, because the yellow ribbons typically were tied to for military purposes, were tied around the light poles. So by just having a little different look, we'll put it around the granite post, and she seemed to think that was a good idea as well. So you may see yellow ribbons start popping up around the common this week, and but I just wanted the public to be aware, as well as the board be aware of this. Obviously, very, very important awareness
Bill,
issue.
will we issue a proclamation designating?
I can bring one out if we can have one for the next meeting, Deb. So make sure it gets put up. We'll work on that for the September 22nd. Even though it's late, it's still important to at least identify that.
And maybe coordinate that with the signboard that's out there as well.
She's going to actually. We're going to have a sign. We're going to have a sign put on the board as well.
Okay.
We've got that worked out already. Okay. And I think that is it. Obviously a lot going on all over the place, and I do believe that's it. So if anybody has any additional thoughts about what's going on, feel free to let me know, and we'll carry on.
Thank you. These are very helpful, I think. It's a lot of information, but you're right, there's a tremendous amount of stuff going on right now. All right, action items. That concludes our regular agenda. So action item 1 and 2 we took care of already.
Yep. Action number 3, Foxborough Cultural Council. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Meredith Rita Haney, expiring on 9/8/2008, to the Foxborough Cultural Council.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 4.
Another Foxborough Cultural Council. I make a motion we appoint Pam Tanasoff, expiring 9/8/2008, to the Foxborough Cultural Council.
I'll second that.
Your motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on Tanastoff? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, number 5, Veteran Services Advisory Committee. Make a motion, we unfortunately accept the Robert Siteman's resignation effective 8/20/15 from the Veteran Services Advisory Committee.
I'll second that, and thanks, Bob, for all your services to the town. You've been a great contributor to veteran services.
All right, so further discussion? Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Number 6, Friends of the Flagpole Group. Make a motion that we accept gift amounts totaling $850 from various donors. And just to clarify, this is a different amount that Jim had said, but a lot of last-minute donations came in.
Yeah, we couldn't submit them because
Yep.
we'd
Yeah, it
already
just came
done
in,
the
yeah. Yep.
So,
turnover sheet.
make a motion, we accept the $850 from various donors that's already been submitted to the town.
Second.
And just under discussion, if you want to just, these are the names, just, we typically read the
Okay.
people's unless it says anonymous.
Okay, Mary Lou Kaysen and Karen Wheatley. Should I read the amount?
Sure.
All right, $500 donation. David and Christine Horrocks, $50 donation. Christian Acaro, $100 donation. Margaret and John Othelette, $100 donation. Alex and Marcia Papineau, $100 donation. Thank you very much.
All right, so the motion was made to accept and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next one is Foxborough Planning Department. Make a motion, we accept the gift to the Sharon Wasson Pavilion Fund of $100 from William and Kathleen Greeter.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And just quickly on that topic, that's the pavilion. And I think the rec department has it on their agenda. They're getting together to vote. They have a donation. Not that it's a they're gonna, I guess you want to call it transfer of funds.
Right.
That's coming up.
Yeah, we were able to get that information for them that they needed, so
Okay.
they're all set.
All right, number 8, another gift acceptance to the planning department. Make a motion, we accept the amount of $100 from anonymous donor to the Sharon Wasson Pavilion Fund.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, number 9, Council on Aging and Human Services. I make a motion that we accept a $100 gift in memory of in memory of Mr. and Mrs. Bojack from Elizabeth Rose.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Another Council on Aging and Human Services, make a motion that we accept in honor of Mary Souza's 100th birthday a donation of $50 from Patricia Scanlon.
Second, and happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. All right, the dreaded task of approval of meeting minutes. Does anybody,
So the meeting minutes, this was on the agenda. We didn't have a full board. They don't go back to, well, some of them go back to March and April, yeah. Majority is in, August 4th, August 12th, August 15th, April 28th, March 17th, March 3rd, and January 28th. Pleasure of the board. We can, if people have comments.
Actually, I only have one change to the March.
You can do it in blocks, right?
We can do them in blocks if there's no intricate changes. I was okay with them. John?
Just, believe it or not, usually I have lots of changes. I only found one, so that tells you that they're really accurate.
Debbie's doing a good job.
On March 3rd, on page 5, last paragraph, just to clarify the language. And my statement was if the housing trust sunsets, what happens to the money? So that second sentence should say, if the fund sunsets, what happens to the money? That's the only change I have.
Anyone else comments? Fantastic. Do we have a motion to approve all of the meetings I just referenced? Meeting minutes?
I'm not gonna make the motion because I wasn't here for a
All right,
good hunk of them.
Give me the dates and I'll make the motion.
Motion was August 4th, August 12th. You have-
Want to make
you
it?
have them?
Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the minutes from August 4th, 2015, August 12th, 2015, August 18th, 2015, April 28th, 2015, March 17th, 2015, March 3rd, 2015, and January 28th of 2015, with changes only to the minutes for March 3rd, 2015.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made, seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
I'm gonna
Four.
abstain.
All those against? And Chris abstains, so 4-0-1. And then lastly, at the back, there's a whole bunch of information. I skimmed through it. There's some movement on the Ponset Dam updates and some of that cleanup efforts. Nothing that is really under our purview that we need to act on, but just general information. So, Thank you, everybody. Anything before we close?
Well, just one item, Jim, I noticed that there was a question, the lowering of the water level in one of the lakes.
Miramichi.
There's going to be a meeting on that next, I think it's Wednesday night. I know it's the same night as another meeting. It's Economic Development, so it's next Wednesday night. Okay. And it's going to be at the South Foxborough Community Center, where they're gonna have a number of folks just there from the state, as well as some of our local folks from the water department to at least present some information about the impact of that.
Who's hosting the meeting?
It's a group of interested residents.
Okay.
There was an article about that in the Chronicle the other day,
Right.
about how they couldn't get the dam set up because there was too much ice too late into the season. So the lake really never got a chance to recharge itself.
Well, they actually lowered the water level by 20 inches, which is pretty significant. And as a result, they're concerned about. I guess there's a new authorization coming up on the use of that water by Attleboro, and so there's some questions. There's a comment period coming up, and so I think this group wants to kind of formalize some comments to send along to DEP on that issue.
Well, also, that affected the use of the Witch Pond.
That's right, the Witch Pond well for the town as well. So we had to switch over some of our wells to other wells that we weren't using, but that switch over was seamless to the residents, but it's worked very well. But I plan to attend just to see what comes out of that, but in case anybody's interested in attending as well.
It's right up the street from the mine.
Right. Okay.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. A motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion made, seconded. No more discussion, further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
We have things